Brought to you by WellnessPlus.tv and made possible by the generous donations of Psychetruth Patreon supporters.
Hi, I'm Robert Gardner. We're continuing our massage for pain relief series, and we decided to cover the abdomen today. The reason we're going to do some belly work is lots of people who have low back pain are actually having problems with their abdominals. And when I say their belly, I'm not just talking about rectus abdominis, the main muscle you think of as your six-pack. We're talking about psoas and deeper muscular structures down through the abdomen. I'm going to start off by just doing a little bit of pressing through here, just because I want to gauge Karina's tenderness as I work. Everyone's abdomen seems to be wildly different in response to this work, including myself. So I'm going to use my hands just to double up, big broad palm pressure through here. I just want to get a basic feel and see if Karina has any specific spots of tenderness. This is just preliminary, just to see if she has any spots that seem overly tender. Again, big, broad palm here. And she didn't report anything that seemed overly tender. So I'm going to use a little bit of cream or oil. I'll often use coconut oil for this. I find it has a good response to people because it's edible. Something they use on their body, reminds them of maybe macaroons, something like that, something edible. I'm going to use a little bit of this. I put it in my hand to warm it. I tend to not want to put cold cream or oil on people. And this way it'll slowly melt out of my hand onto her belly. That initial sort of palpatory work you could skip, but I just wanted to do that quickly just to give you an idea, kind of the broad pressure I was delivering with my palms. And there we go. Now, what's going to happen here is I'm going to work around the navel with my fingertips. And once this is smoothed in, I'm going to slowly use a couple, 2-3 fingers and make small little circles around the navel just to soften this area. This builds more trust with the receiver. And if you decide to do this at home, I recommend that you follow these first portions, that initial palpation, and then doing this little bit of circling. And for many of you, this may be the only thing that you do at home. Later, when I'm using some deeper compressions, you can do so, but you're going to go very slowly and only if it feels comfortable to the person you're working on. Some of this can feel intense. You also probably wouldn't want to do this while a woman was on her menstrual cycle. No pregnancy, no major surgeries recently, anything like that. This is just to build trust, so Karina feels safe as I'm pressing through these areas. You'll notice that I made the circles a little bit larger as we go. Just working around the abdomen, sinking down all through. If you want to reach down into the sides, a little bit of QL out and over, you can. Feels really nice, gets them to relax. Sometimes when they've been on their back for a little while, it'll start to feel uncomfortable, so it's like you start to drag them, pull them a little bit of light twist. I'm going to do the same on the opposite side. And because that is now smoothed in, I'm going to come in and I'll use what I consider cardinal points. I'm going to start to the side since I'm already here. I'm going to start over here about an inch or two to the side of the navel. I'm going to use the heel of my hand right here. And I'm going to reinforce with my other hand and just gently sink in. Karina started to take a breath there. I think because it was maybe a little bit of intensity. Is that too much right there, Karina?
No,
okay. So, Karina, you've never had this work before, right?
Right.
Okay. And when I'm checking in with her like that, it's just to reassure her. It means that I can have a little conversation with her about it, explain to her that anything she feels is mostly normal. And if it's ever painful, that I just apply less pressure or stop altogether. So where I'm sinking right there, is it referring pain anywhere, Karina? In other words, do you feel pressure where I'm pressing?
Pressure where you're pressing and oddly like up in the shoulder a little bit.
Okay.
Like
which shoulder?
the left one.
Okay. Now, the other thing is, when you guys are, if you're doing this at home, I just want to remind you that that response is fairly typical. I am not surprised anymore when people tell me they feel pain all over their body. It's not something I freak out about. I just don't want it to be painful. Intense is a strong sensation. Pain says, hey, this hurts. You're going to hurt me. Stop that. You're going to injure something. So is the pain in your shoulder sharp or is it broad?
It's just kind of like feels tense.
Feels tense? Okay. Now, if I give you some pressure more to the midline or more lateral?
Lateral.
Okay, you like the lateral more? And then if I keep going lateral, does that feel more important there?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I give you pressure up towards the head, okay, then I'm going to hold there. When she tells me, hey, that feels really good, I'm going to respond to what she's telling me. I think that doing abdominal work is a bit of a high art as a massage therapist and body worker. What you have to do is understand that working in the abdomen is safe as long as we very highly communicate with the people we're working on. There you go. Now, not too much? Okay. And the breathing, was that because it was difficult for you to breathe? You decided you need to take a big in breath?
Because it feels good to take the pressure off for a second.
Yeah. So what I've done is I'm not applying any more pressure. Getting Karina to breathe is the next step because I'm not applying any more pressure, but when Karina gives me more oomph on her exhale, particularly when she breathes out of her mouth, it allows me to sink more deeply and allows her a bit of control over how much pressure is delivered. So there, Karina, again, do you want to go back to the midline? Or do you want me to come out lateral? Lateral again. Now, you'll notice that we started at one point and then I started to shear. I started to move. Totally normal response. My hands are stacked so that I'm supporting. I'm using both arms and the muscles of both arms to be able to maintain the pressure there. And how are we doing, Karina? Good. So big in breath for me. Out the mouth. There you go. I'm going to sink down with her. And at the bottom of the exhale, I'm going to slowly back off. I don't want to jump out. That pressure feels like it's too much. The tissue would recoil. And I'm going to give her just a minute to sort of integrate what we just did. And I'm going to slowly change her arm position so I can change where I'm at, because I'm going to sit on the table to change position lightly here. I want to be able to come in. We found that spot. It was about 2 inches, an inch or two to the side of the navel. Doesn't matter which you start on, by the way. I'm going to go an inch or two below the navel. Same sort of thing.
Yeah, I can like feel my organs in there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you feel my pulse?
Mm-hmm.
You can feel that, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
As the work becomes more advanced, I actually do that on purpose, the pulse. So as I'm working through her abdomen again, I'm an inch or two below the navel. I just helped the pants down just a little bit, just below my palm. I'm going to reinforce with the other hand and just sink in big and broad. Karina was talking about the fact that she feels her pulse. There's a little bit of pressure on the abdominal aorta, major blood supply down through the organs there. It's a secondary part of going in and just delivering a little bit of pressure here. Primarily, I think what we're working on are nerves. Not as much organs, not as much muscle. We're working on nerve supply to those organs and muscles. I'm providing a stimulus and she has a response. Is it more tender there, Karina? A little bit? Okay. So is it too much pressure?
It's okay.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a little pressure up towards the head. So 2 inches below the navel. Big, broad pressure. A little bit more heel of hand, but it's not sharp. As I sink in, I'm going to give Karina just a little bit of pressure on the exhale up towards her head. Or down towards her feet.
Down.
And she immediately says, hey, down. This is how you're going to train the receiver, the client you work with. It's more pressure down. And what about there, Karina? Is that a good spot to hang out? Okay. Now, I've picked the spot either high or low, up towards the head, down towards the feet. She gives me an even bigger sigh. She's got some activity there. Are you getting any referred pain? No, just tender where I'm pressing. So if I give you some pressure out towards what's your right side, or out towards your left side?
More intense that way.
More intense to the left? Okay. So what if I hang out right there? So she gives me that breath. I can feel tension. I feel taut, and I have absolutely no idea what it is. So smooth muscle tissue are abdominal organs. Smooth muscle tissue responds in a very different way than skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle is your bicep. When I pick up a dumbbell and decide to do a curl, I can tell myself to do a curl. Smooth muscle tissue is a different part of the nervous system. You don't have to think about digestion. You don't have to think, hey, large intestine, hey, small intestine, do this, do that. But when I reach down through this, it feels like you're softening skeletal muscle to get down closer to organ, large intestine, small intestine. What I feel is a sort of density that if I hang out on will normally begin to dissipate, just like other parts of the body. So I'm actually asking questions about different branches of the nervous system and how the body functions. In the end, I think primarily what we're doing is providing a stimulus, and Karina's body responds, and that's because of nerves. Right there. Just giving me some good breath right there. There you go. Right there, Karina. Give her a little bit of like a crescent moon right there just to see how she would respond right there. And again, no referred pain. Okay. I'm going to slowly back out. This time I kind of rode with her in-breath. Right as she bottomed out of the exhale, I just rode the inhalation up. And then she's still breathing and kind of processing whatever happened right there. How was that? Intense?
It was intense, and then I could feel it like become less intense
When
as you were holding it.
Yeah, as I was hanging out. And then how did it feel when I released?
It felt good.
Yeah, okay. And I ask her for that feedback. Everybody's response will be just a little bit different. I'm going to change my position again. Normally I would go to the other side of the table, but because of our cameras, you're totally fine there, by the way, if that feels good to you. So this sort of thing right here, I want you to be mindful of this. This doesn't cause any issues for me personally, but if you're working with someone new, think about someone putting their hand just comfortably on your thigh. Has sort of a different like resonance, right? She could put her arm anywhere she feels comfortable. It's totally fine to me, but it's just something I want you to be aware of. As I'm an inch or two to the right of her navel, same basic thing. I'm going to switch hands. Before I had the left hand down, now I'm going to put the right hand down. I'm going to sink in and reinforce with the other hand. I'm getting some density pretty much straight down. Pressure's not too much, Karina.
It's intense, but it's okay.
It's intense, but it's okay. And that's where she's learning, you know, how much pressure can she take comfortably. I'm going to give her on the next exhale, I'm going to go just a little bit medial to the midline. Then I'm going to go just a little bit lateral. And I'm going to ask her which she prefers.
Feels better inward, but like I need it lateral.
Okay. So it's a little more tender lateral. Okay. So if I'm lateral and right there, how's that? Okay. Now up towards the head or down towards the feet? Okay, so when they tell me that, when they say, hey, both feel good, I'm going to go to the middle. It's usually the way that I'll go. If they have no preference for up or down, I'm just going to go in the middle and just hang out right there. Now, what if I give you some counterclockwise or clockwise? Counterclockwise or clockwise?
More intense clockwise.
It's more intense clockwise. I'm going to hold just a little bit. Is that tolerable? Okay. And breathe for me. And again, contraindications for this. Women who are pregnant, common sense. People on their menstrual cycle, probably not a great idea. Recent abdominal surgeries. Now, old abdominal surgeries, things like that, totally fine. We're going to give her one more full inhalation and then exhalation. And at the bottom of her exhale, I'm going to slowly start to disengage. She'll usually start to breathe in and kind of almost like gently push me out. I'm going to change my body position, probably sit back in the chair there, and give her just a second to integrate that. You have a cramp?
No, it just feels so weird. It feels like I need to put my legs up.
Okay. So here's the thing. When Karina says it feels like she needs to put her legs up, when we go down and put pressure on her abdomen, okay, especially from about here down, your psoas is a muscle that connects on your femur at your hip and basically along a series of these lumbar vertebrae. When I go and put pressure here and make contact with nerves, when I provide a stimulus there, the psoas will often lengthen and let go, which means what? Her lumbar feels like it's spreading. It felt uncomfortable on her back, so she wanted to change her pelvic position so she felt more comfortable. And then can you rest there comfortably? Or do we need a bigger bolster for your legs?
I just had to like stretch them for a second or something.
Okay. And that's an important part of the process because people will have to move around. So I'm going to find a spot an inch or two above the navel this time. Karina's put her legs back down, feels comfortable. I'm going to see what hand position is going to work here. I want to be up above, down below. I think what I'm going to do is still use this. I'm going to put my hand to the side, but I'm going to be just above. And I'm going to reinforce there. Now I get a much stronger pulse here because we're above the abdominal aorta. Not a major concern to feel some pulse there. And as I sink in, I'm just trying to get feedback from Karina. It's not too intense. And now that I'm in position, I'm going to slowly give her pressure up towards the head. That feels really good. Okay, now let me try down and see how that feels.
More intense, less good.
Okay, so what would you prefer? Would you prefer the good this way? Up?
I guess down.
Okay. So why do you choose what's more intense and doesn't feel good?
Because it feels like my body needs it.
Ah, okay. So the reason I engaged with her that way in that moment is this. I'm not opposed to Karina feeling good while we're doing work. But if you get into an area where it feels like you need something, it's not uncommon to have sort of intense sensations. Bordering, not on pain, but bordering on pain. Now, if I give you some pressure out to the left side, which is her left side. Less intense, okay. Now if I go over to the right side, more intense. Let's see if I keep going. You prefer that? And she feels it right over here is where she was pointing. Now when you feel it there, Karina, is it sharp? Is it broad? Okay. Just intense. Those sorts of referred pain things happen constantly. It is no longer a big deal when people say, hey, I feel in my shoulder. Hey, I feel that in my right big toe. I'm like, I have no idea why. The reason I explain that process to you, not only to Karina, but also to you at home, is because I want you to understand the complexity of what's going on. When you're reaching into the abdomen, you're reaching into a ton of nerve clusters, abdominal organs, various things, and we're not really used to people working on this stuff. Abdominal work is not extremely common. Now, Karina, if I give you some motion this way, maybe like a big circle clockwise or a big circle counterclockwise.
They're about the same.
About the same? Okay. If I give you more pressure out to your right side or more
intense.
More to your left.
They're both intense.
Both intense. So I'm going to hang out in the middle right there. She gave me a good breath there. When she bottoms out, I'm going to slowly release pressure. She's actually pushing me out with her in breath because I'm just riding that out. I'm going to slowly disengage. Let me give her just a minute to settle in. It's not uncommon in private practice to do this. I can spend 90 minutes or more just working through people's abdomen slowly. So when I disengaged, Karina said that it felt pretty good. I would suspect probably a little bit warm, Karina, through here. And then it just felt better when we stopped, meaning that anything that we did, it was not painful, it was just intense. That's really good starting point for the abdominal work. If you do that on people at home, again, just make sure to communicate with them as you go. No recent abdominal surgeries, any contraindications, things like that. If you have other questions for us, feel free to contact us. We're happy to chat with you about that. And thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you'll watch the rest of our series using Amazon Prime or on WellnessPlus TV.
Hey patrons, it's Karina and Missy. Hello.
Hey patrons, this is Jess.
Hey Mom.
It is Greek Goddess Hour continued.
And we are here with an exciting update for you.
Going to be more interactive, more communication, more connection so that we can offer you more of what you want to see.
It's like the most frustrating thing. You're like, God, this video is going so great, and then the camera dies.
All right, patrons, so I just want to show you all my perspective here. All right, I'm here sitting.
You're choosing us over Netflix, or?
Right.
I wouldn't even choose us over Netflix.
No, that's not true. Feeling pretty lucky. And what we want to do is become more connected with you.
So thank you so much.